tuning in today. We're going to be talking about getting your PPL and all the questions that are involved in doing so. Don't forget, if you find this useful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So first of all, thank you so much to everybody that sent in questions on Instagram to do this. Your support and help is really, truly appreciated. So for those of you that are interested, I did most of my hour building in this actual aircraft actually with A&T. It's absolutely amazing. PA-28, nice and comfy inside. As you can see there. So yeah, first of all, massive thanks to Ross and all the team at A&T for allowing me to come down and shoot this video. So yeah, the goal of today then is to just try and answer all your questions about the private pilot's license and what is involved in doing your private pilot's license. I did most of my hour building in this particular aircraft, so being here actually brings back a lot of memories today. So the first question then is, what is your private pilot's license? Your private pilot's license is basically a license that allows you to fly one of these in good weather with your family and friends. Now the big thing about the private pilot's license is you're not allowed to actually earn any money from flying. But it's still a great tool to have, and you can do a lot of exploring and have a lot of fun actually in one of these airplanes. So the next question then is, how do you get your PPL? It's actually pretty straightforward. I guess the first step I would say is, before you launch in and spend loads and loads of money on flying, is just go and do what's called a trial lesson first of all. We'll just let the police helicopter go. And it's going now. So yeah, first things first is go and do a trial lesson, and that basically allows you to get a feel for it, and it also gives you an opportunity to see whether you really have the aptitude for flying or not. Once you've done that, you need to get a medical. If you're doing a full private pilot's license, then you need to get ideally a Class 2 medical or a Class 1 medical if you want to fly professionally. So once you've got your medical, then the next thing that you need to do is to find a flight school. So I'm here at A&T in Blackpool, but have a look online for the flight school that's closest to you that will work best for you. Now the actual flying part of the PPL consists of a minimum of 45 hours. It's 25 hours of dual instructions and also includes 10 hours of supervised solo. So during your PPL course, you'll get the opportunity to fly one of these solo on your own towards various milestones, culminating in what's called your qualifying cross country. A couple of things to consider when choosing your flight school for your PPL is what's the instructor availability, is there a long waiting list. Now with COVID-19, hopefully schools getting back on their feet, it hopefully should be a little bit quieter, but still you want to ask the questions. You also want to consider things like elevation. How high is the airfield you're going to be learning from? Really high airfields tend to have pretty poor weather, unfortunately, particularly in the winter. Really low fields tend to get away with it a bit more. You also want to consider whether it's going to be grass or tarmac strip. Both are completely fine and both will work for you, and people, work very well at both of those locations. But the one thing to bear in mind is grass strips tend to get boggy in the winter, and sometimes you can't find the airfield is closed for a good amount of time. But just talk to the airfield that you're considering doing your PPL with, and they'll give you pretty good guidance of that. In terms of the training, you've got 9 theoretical exams to sit. They're all pretty good and pretty straightforward, completely fine. You've got instructors at flight school who can help you out, maybe for a little bit more money, give you some instruction and so on. In your ground school, that's perfect. And then on to the flying bit now. So the next question I had was, how much does a PPL cost? For PPL, you're looking anywhere from about £7,500 to about £10,000, just depending on where you did your PPL and what kind of aircraft you did it. So yeah, thanks everyone who sent the questions in via Instagram. So one of the questions that I've got here is, what did I use to study? So there's a link in the description, but there's a set of books that I bought from Poolies. You can get them from other sources, and they basically go through all the material for you there. For the stuff that I wasn't sure about, I'll also top that up with some ground school instruction from the flight instructors. One of the things that I used to do is, on a rainy day, even though the weather wasn't great, I'd still turn up, and I'd normally take the rainy days to get through my ground school, as we get a lot of rainy days in the UK. So yeah, absolutely. Just because the weather isn't perfect, just keep going. You never know what you can get out of the day. Had a question here that's asking, am I a CATS Aviation student? Absolutely, I am. CATS, I found them really good for my distance learning, not for my PPL, but for later on when I came to do my ATPL theory. So I got a question here. If I had to do my training again, what would I do differently? Honest answer is probably not a great deal. I was really happy with my training and had a lot of fun. I think I'll maybe have just tried to enjoy it a bit more rather than just push for the next milestone. But it's one of those. I guess maybe if I hadn't finished as soon as I had, I might have been maybe less fortunate or not quite as lucky in the job market to get the break and go into the airlines. Who knows? But yeah, I would say maybe if I could just have enjoyed it a bit more, that would have been absolutely marvelous. So I got another question here. I did my PPL in Germany. Where in the UK can I do my outbuilding? That's a really good question. So there's lots and lots of different places that you can. I think what you need to do is to do your own research and figure out what would potentially work best for you. We've got the police helicopter coming, so I might be interrupted at any moment, but we'll keep going. And what I say is figure out what works best for you, is decide whether it makes more sense to do a no equity scheme or to outbuild amongst a flying club, a bit like I did in this particular aircraft, or to buy a share in an aircraft and then go from there. Once again, just have a look and figure out what would work best for you and your current situation. All of different pros and cons. There's a different kind of cost profile. If you bought your own aircraft, you pay high upfront cost but lower per hour cost. If you're on a no equity scheme, it's kind of a nice middle ground. Your hourly rate is maybe not as low as somebody with their own aircraft, but it's not that much higher. And if you're in a club environment, it's no commitment, so you can come and go as you wish, but your hourly cost is maybe slightly higher. So yeah, just figure out what works best. One of the questions that I got was, how do you learn nav? Absolutely, nav is probably one of the tougher subjects in PPL. The best way I'd say is maybe, and also this is the advice that Ross gave me, who's one of the flight instructors here at ANT, is just start with the basics first, before looking at the flight computer, looking at true headings, all that kind of stuff. That's going to confuse you. Just get the basics nailed down first, and once you've got the basics nailed down, that's when you can then start looking at using your flight computer, true headings, drift, wind correction angle, all that sort of stuff on there. Now, the other thing that was also discussed is, if you're going to spend any money on extra tuition during your PPL for ground school, nav is probably one of the best places, or the most money well spent areas. Your nav doesn't go away, and particularly if you want to fly commercially, it continues to come up later during your CPL and beyond. So yeah, it's unfortunately not one you can hide away. Another question here: will I go back to flying GA? Absolutely. I mean, I'm here today, and yeah, just being sat back in the aircraft, I think I just want to go flying. So yeah, absolutely. Hopefully once the restrictions are lifted and we can get back to flying, absolutely I will be looking to get back into GA.